I'm following up on yesterday's story, which, if you're not aware, the voice actress of Bayonetta made a short video on Twitter saying that the company made over $300 million and they only offered her $4,000 to work with them. And she found that to be incredibly insulting. She thinks that the company is stingy and she wants people to boycott the game. Now, my initial take is that maybe they just didn't want to work with her because, I don't know, she's difficult to work with. Maybe she doesn't provide the lines on time. I have no idea. But maybe she got blacklisted and they just didn't want to do business with her anymore. So they offered her a sum that they knew she would refuse in the hopes that they can justify to the gaming community that, hey, you know, we tried reaching out to her, the contract didn't work, so we end up hiring someone else. But it turns out that I have been messaged by people who are voice actors and people who do work at gaming companies, and they told me that the $4,000 that she was offered was actually above what is considered to be industry standard for a voice actor. And when people explained to me, I realized, okay, well, you know, they have a point. I mean, when you're looking at Bayonetta, it's not a game like Mass Effect or like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, a game that has a lot of voice lines and is dialogue heavy. No, Bayonetta, if the first and the second game is anything to go by, has around 1 hour of footage regarding cinematics, and maybe only part of that is Bayonetta doing voice lines. So what other voice actors told me is that this work can be completed in roughly 2 weeks. So $4,000 for 2 weeks worth of time, that's actually really good money for a voice actor. I mean, take into account that if she gets another gig, like she can make $8,000 a month. I mean, that's really good pay. Now, the reason voice actors in video games aren't paid very well is due to the industry standard, which is correlated with the fact that many people do not buy video games based on the voice actors. In fact, I am willing to bet that the overwhelming majority of people didn't even know who this lady is before she made the video. Like, how many people do you know who will say, oh yes, I want to buy this video game because my favorite voice actor is in it? Like, that never happens. You know, voice actors, even if they're famous, they're not like Hollywood celebrities, because there are people who would say, oh yes, I want to go see this movie because my favorite actor is in it. Right? No, people buy video games mostly because of the genre, the story, the art style, and the voice acting is just icing on the cake. Now, also take into account that it doesn't matter how much money a company makes. Like, let's say they made $500 million. Well, first of all, they have to pay their investors, and then they have to pay the developers, and then they have to pay the marketing team, the HR lady, the diversity officer, very important, you have to pay that. And basically what they do is like that, then they can create new jobs, they can create new IPs and hire new people. So just because a company made a lot of money, that doesn't mean that the wage of the people working there necessarily increases. Especially when companies set aside budgets for various departments. So out of those $500 million, they have a budget for the marketing, they have a budget for the diversity officers and the diversity initiatives, then they have money for the programmers, and of course they have money for the voice acting. But take into account that when you look at the voice acting, it's not just the main characters, not just Bayonetta. Like, there's other voice actors that are going to partake in the production, and they also need to be paid. And also take into account that there are dubs in various languages, so most likely they will have a French dub, and they will have a Japanese dub. In fact, in the case of Bayonetta, especially Bayonetta 3, I mean, this is a Japanese game made by a Japanese company, and I know a lot of English people who are just going to prefer playing the game with the Japanese dub. And I'm telling you this as a streamer. Like, when I stream video games, when I streamed Final Fantasy, for example, many people were telling me, just use the Japanese dubs and use the English subs. And this is what the market wants, and it's probably why the company doesn't even care that much about the English dub. I mean, it's something that's nice to be there, but on the grand scheme of things, they're probably more worried about the Japanese voice acting. So when you finish analyzing the grand scheme of things, and you notice that the voice actors aren't the ones that are going to push the product, you understand why they are paid the way they are. Especially when you realize that voice actors are quite replaceable in video games. I mean, if you play Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or many other games, like many times they just flat out switch the voice actor from production to production because most people don't care. And most people don't even understand unless it's a big controversy with Street Fighter changing the voice of Ken. Or, you know, for woke reasons or something like that, that it becomes political. But other than that, like, most people don't really notice when a voice actor has been changed, especially if the previous version of the game came out like 6 or 7 years ago. Like, most people don't even remember. So as long as, like, the voice actor does a good job, like in the case of Kratos' voice actor, which most people enjoy it a lot more than the voice of Kratos from the previous games, yeah, like, no one is going to even mention it. There is one exception, though. Like, I would mark this. Like, if you get a famous actor, if you get, like, Keanu Reeves, or you get Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone to play in your game, yeah, then that might actually turn some heads, and that might actually garner more publicity and have better marketing, and it might even actually sell your product. A perfect example would be Telltale Games, where they got the Game of Thrones actors to play in their actual game. Like, there were a lot of people who are fan of Game of Thrones who bought Telltale Games just because the actual original voice actors were there. And they were paid actually quite well because they got people interested in the game. And there are also exceptions on the opposite scale with Splinter Cell. When they changed the voice actor for Splinter Cell, people got a little bit upset and they noticed because the original voice actor was just that good. But I don't think it's going to be applied in the case of Bayonetta. Like, I genuinely don't think, especially what this lady doesn't understand, that we're talking about gamers here. Like, gamers are a group of people, a community, that you can insult, you can call them racist, sexist, misogynistic, you can turn them into your little pay piggies, and they will still buy your product. So gamers are probably the last community on the fucking face of the planet that you're going to get them to boycott a game over a trivial controversy such as this. So now the vice president of the company, PlatinumGames, has seemingly responded to her claims by saying that's sad and deplorable about the attitude of untruth. That's what I can tell now. By the way, beware of my rules, he wrote on Twitter, and then he shut down his Twitter account. What he should have done is to shut the fuck up and allow the lawyers to deal with this situation and the marketing team, right? So it's a she said, he said type of story. Believe it or not, I'm more inclined to believe the company now after hearing from other voice actors and people who actually have companies, because it completely changes your perspective on things once you actually run your own business and you realize that you have a finite supply of money and you have to pay people's wages and still make a profit. But other than that, the idea, which I pointed out in the previous video, that maybe they just didn't want to work with her, is still a viable one. Like, it's still possible that they weren't really that happy with her, maybe with her personality, or like, as I mentioned, she's difficult to work with. So maybe that's why they gave her $4,000. My beef with it, and the reason I'm upset, is that the company lied about it. You know, like, they, instead of saying like, hey, you know, we tried reaching out, but we didn't manage to get a contract, they said something, oh, it's about her timetable and she wasn't able to work at the hours we suggested and blah, blah, blah. Which, again, might even be true. Right? It's a he said, she said type of story. And I have absolutely no reason to believe any of the parties involved because I haven't seen any receipts from either one of them. But what is interesting is the way that the gaming community has reacted to this. And most people are saying that Japan should learn a valuable lesson. Reject the woke, give us good uncensored translation, and don't waste money on English dubs. English voice actors bring unnecessary drama. Funny how all of these companies which go woke are being surrounded by controversy and lawsuits. So yeah, you know, like, I had no idea that the company is going woke. I don't know what gamers are talking about. I did hear that they're trying to tone down Bayonetta's sexuality a little bit. So yeah, if that's the case, well, you know, welcome to the culture. You know, you sleep with dogs, you get the fleas, as they say. And if you're going to virtue signal that you're a progressive company, well, the sharks are going to smell blood in the water and they're going to be, oh, so you're for social justice. Oh, why don't you pay your workers a fair wage? Oh, let's see what the fans, who have absolutely no idea about what the industry standard is, have to say about the contract you are offering me. Like, you could have avoided this. But anyway, right, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.